Hey, everybody, PBSE podcast hosts Mark and Steve here with a special message about our revolutionary online recovery program for addict spouses and couples called Dare to Connect. Multiple times every week, we get messages from subscribers in the program. They're people just like you. They're trying to heal from the devastation of sex and porn addiction and betrayal trauma. And here's a few of our most recent submissions. Here's one from an addict in recovery. It says, D2C has principles that everyone should utilize regardless of their circumstances. It doesn't matter your coping mechanisms. It matters that you want to work towards genuine connection with your partner.
That's awesome. Another testimony from an addict continues on. My wife is just starting out in training as a licensed therapist. Dare to Connect has been far more useful to her than her degree.
Wow.
The way Mark and Steve apply what they've learned is always so redemptive. D2C has opened doors for my relationship that I thought would be shut forever. Mark and Steve are an incredible resource of information on the subject of sex addiction and betrayal trauma. We could not do this journey without their help.
Here's one from a partner who's been with us for nearly a year. I want you both to know that it is because of you guys and D2C that I'm able to be in the place that I am today. I will always be grateful to you both for your feedback and prompt replies to my questions. I can't even come close to putting it into words how valuable my time spent with y'all this past year has been to my life. Thank you for everything you taught me about betrayal trauma and boundaries and thinking errors and loving myself and making myself a priority and standing up for myself.
Love that submission. And then as we close out here today, guys, one more account from another addict in recovery. I wish I had a platform like this 14 years ago where I could have learned and done the hard work of recovery before I had done all this damage to myself and to my spouse. And to be candid with all of you, that's exactly why we created Dare to Connect. Mark and I found ourselves in that place. Messages like these and the others like them, they're what Dare to Connect really is all about, guys, and why Mark and I do what we do. Whether you're an addict or a partner of an addict, and no matter where you find yourself in the recovery process, Dare to Connect can take you to the next level. Don't wait another day to catapult your recovery forward. Today is your day for change. Visit us at daretoconnectnow.com to pick up your free 2-week trial of Dare to Connect today. Hey everybody, I'm Steve Moore.
And I'm Mark Castleman.
We know the pain and heartbreak of porn and sex addiction.
And we know the triumph of breaking completely free.
Every day, we help our clients find hope and healing.
Join us in the fight to take back your life, your marriage, and be stronger than ever.
This is the PBSC Squared podcast. Welcome, everybody, to episode 346 of the PBSE podcast. This is Steve Moore here along with Mark Castleman, and we are here to talk about a submission from a partner. As you can see in the title, if he doesn't think porn is bad, I'm going to put quotes around that, can he still truly recover? The age-old question, is morality enough? Well, let's talk about it, because there's a lot to say here. We'll read the submission. It's actually quite short, which is a little different, but not in a bad way. She gets right to the point. She says, this partner goes on to say, my husband is an addict, a pornography addict. After supposedly a year clean, in hindsight, absolutely, he was white knuckling and then relapsed, and then a period of relapsing for 6 months. She says, everything I know is things I found. He wasn't upfront during that time. This time, he is attempting recovery again, and for us, it feels a little bit different, but I'm hesitant to let myself get too optimistic yet, which is smart. He's back in CSAT therapy, so he's meeting with a certified sex addiction therapist, which is good. He's attending meetings once or twice a week. We assume to mean those are like 12-step meetings. We have tried to eliminate triggering content on his phone. We seem to be communicating more. But And here's the but. There's always a but, right? He doesn't think porn is bad. He recognizes the lying and hiding and gaslighting is bad. Hurting me is bad. He wants to stop because it hurts me, not because he thinks porn is wrong. Is it even possible to kick such a habit when he sees nothing wrong with porn itself? Okay.
Mm.
So we've got an extent. So we have a situation here that in some ways is typical, but in some ways unique. This guy has a long history of acting out with pornography. According to her, this is based on what she knows, at least over the course of years, right? A lot of heavy gaslighting, a lot of heavy relapsing. Again, all of what she found out according to her account. It's not stuff that he would ever come and be accountable to her with. It's always things that she's discovered. They've gone multiple times through recovery, at least one time, only to come to find out that there was more white knuckling than actual change. And it sounds like in some ways they're getting to some at least some of the issues at play, which is good. And there is some progress, at least on his end, in terms of transparency of just he's owning it apparently with her, right? At least to a degree. Look, I just don't think this is bad. So we have a dynamic here where we're getting somewhere. The question, of course, becomes, is this the question that should even be asked? And I got lots of thoughts about this. I know Mark does as well. So we're going to jump right into this, right? Because again, that you could almost ask the question behind the question. Is morality sufficient impetus to change? So let's.
Well, and I think, let's say something right up front so we can say it and then we can move forward to these deeper issues. There are lots and lots of resources out there with studies that have gone on for decades and decades. In fact, I engaged in some of those studies with colleagues clear back in the late 90s about the harms of pornography. I interviewed women from the sex trade industry themselves, and we can talk about all of the abuses and all of the manipulations and all of the terrible underworld that takes place in the entire pornography industry worldwide. And this is not what this podcast is about, but please make no mistake, Steve and I have very strong feelings about pornography itself and how it treats women, how the industry operates. And we could do 50 hours on the harms of pornography, backed up by decades of absolute clinical and real life research. So enough said. I mean, to me, it doesn't even bear answering. It's like, really, is pornography harmful? You're gonna claim it's not, or ask that after all the water under the bridge with research and results and just all of it. It's a Mount Everest of evidence about the harm of this whole thing. So, right, enough said about that. Oh, you're muted, Steve.
Don't you love that, guys? Everybody love technology. Awkward silence on the recording. Yes, I appreciate Mark mentioning that. I coughed and then I forgot to unmute. Um, Definitely agree with what Mark is saying. And just by quick review, because it does bear some review. I mean, from an addict's, I'll just give you the addicts in recovery perspective, right? Because Mark did a good job outlining kind of from an objective place. I spent, and as did Mark, decades finding every way possible to act out in all sorts of unique ways, pornography and otherwise. And then when our spouses, understandably were resistant or hesitant or found it problematic, we then spent even more time trying to find ways to make it okay when it wasn't. And I don't mean okay from is it making Jesus cry or not? Not that that doesn't matter, but but that's more of the moralistic discussion, right? As opposed to we were making it okay from a place of, look, it's not as bad as you think, or it's not as problematic, right? Whatever. Well, so having gone through that and being in the unique position as a therapist, I can tell you, I went through all those kinds of things with my partner. I, made those kinds of affirmations. And oftentimes I would find myself, not in totality, because I don't think I ever tried to truly make the case that this is good. I don't think I ever went that far, but I would lean heavily on the moral discussion of it, right? In terms of debate with my partner. It's not as bad as you think it is. You don't know what my clients are doing. This is so much not as bad.
Mm.
It's way less significant. It could be so much worse, right? the moral
Right.
relativism.
Everybody's doing it. It's really just
Yes.
sort of a neutral issue. It's
It's
just,
not that big of a,
yeah, it's benign.
there was so much relativism, moral relativism that is the term that was used to talk about that. And I'll tell you, as an addict, that suited me just fine looking back. You know why? Because I didn't have to look at the feelings behind it. I got to just stay in the quote unquote facts. Now the facts weren't even really factual,
No,
but
they were.
I was keeping the discussion factually based, or right, it was like a debate, right? Like, let's look at the pros and the cons, or let's look at, and the reality is that the question that should be asked? Because I'll tell you, as an addict in long-term recovery, I'm not just talking about recovery from sexual addiction. I'm talking about true change on any level. What we're talking about here is the difference between compliance versus conversion that we talk about here oftentimes and in our Dare to Connect program for adult spouses and couples. Do I want to, and this is applicable for spouses too, and they need to ask themselves that, because sometimes spouses, understandably so, they will kind of fall into that same trap. Look, I'm gonna prove to you why you need to change, right? I'm gonna get so many facts together and so many observations and so many whatever. You'll have no choice but to, because you have to now, right? But the reality is that you can build bigger and bigger metaphorical gun barrels to the factual argument and attach it to the weapon and hold it to a guy's head. But no matter how big the caliber, all that's going to do metaphorically is induce some level of compliance. But what's needed for real change in a marriage, whether it's around this issue or frankly any issue, maritally or otherwise, individually, is there on some level has to be some sort of a conversion. There has to be a recognition of, you know what? Screw the facts. Whatever they are, whatever I think they are, they don't. Because we live in a world, right, where we can debate facts endlessly. I mean, can we just have a really candid discussion? It would not take me very hard as a professional, nor would it take Mark, to find some wingnut on the internet who's willing to say that pornography is awesome and great and helpful for whatever. You look up enough research studies on any academic website, you will find some study to back up anything.
That's
Truly.
true. Yep, it is true. It
And
is
so
true.
you can go that route all day long, but at the end of the day, the question should be less about, is this moralistically wrong or right? Although we, as Mark said, I think the case for it being moralistically problematic, not just for people, but for society as a whole, is overwhelming. But if we set that aside, one has to ask, who am I authentically today? Who am I authentically really deep down trying to become? And is what I'm engaging with here compatible with, and or does it move me closer to that or not?
Well, it's really interesting in her submission. And I know that maybe some guys listening aren't going to like what I'm about to say, but she says here that he doesn't think porn is bad, but he recognizing that the lying and the hiding and the gaslighting is bad, that
Mm,
hurting her is bad. And he
yeah.
wants to stop because it hurts her, not because he thinks porn is wrong.
Mm,
The thing he's not recognizing, and I remember my deep addiction days, this would have gone over my head also. The lying and the hiding and the gaslighting and the hurting her, those are all part of pornography.
mm,
The same kind of mindset that produces those behaviors that he wants to stop because it hurts her. Those same kinds of mindsets are what move us towards engaging with pornography in the first place. Right? So it's not, we could have an endless argument about how bad porn is or not bad, but the real question for him, especially, is what kind of man, what kind of sexuality, what kind of relationship is the pornography, the regular engagement with pornography, what is that all moving him toward,
right.
training him to become? Right? This has to be a place of really deep self-examination instead of arguing about labels, right? And I think it seems like he's missing that. And so let's talk for a few minutes about the impact of pornography upon the individual who regularly engages with it. And Steve and I both have done an enormous amount of research about this. We've worked with thousands and thousands of guys over more than 2 decades on this issue. You won't find very many people that know more about the impact of pornography on the individual engaging with it than us. So one big, huge area, and we both saw this in our own decades of pornography use and how difficult it was to confront this within ourselves and then to navigate through it. But pornography trains men to objectify women. I mean, we have to face that, right? Pornography presents women primarily, not just women. It also, of course, objectifies men as well. That's become more pervasive. But pornography presents women especially through their appearance, their sexual availability.
Yeah.
Everything that they can provide sexually, what their body parts look like or don't look like, the shape, the size. It's all about appearance and performance. So you take women as sovereign, independent, valuable, amazing human beings, and you put them into a little tiny box. And you have to accept the fact, if you're going to engage with pornography, that's what you're doing. Right? I'm limiting these women or these people I'm looking at to this little teeny tiny category of human existence. And am I okay with that? I had a really powerful experience when I was kind of in mid-range recovery, and I was getting more in tune with my true, genuine inner self, getting more in tune with what I call my higher power. I was parked outside of a fitness club, getting ready to go in, and a woman who was very overweight came out through the doors and started walking towards me in the parking lot. And my brain immediately went to judgment of her. Oh my gosh, can you believe how big she is? And can't she control her eating? I just had all this judgment that was flooding out of my brain, all based on what? Purely and completely and only her physical appearance and body parts. I knew nothing else of her. Zero, zip, nada. And when my brain started doing that, which was old addict mindset, here's what the thought that came into my head. I remember it sitting here as if it was a minute ago. Mark, you are a bigot. And it was really forceful words. You are a bigot. And I really jumped back, right? Because I try to pride myself in accepting people and seeing all the good in people and seeing all of what people are. But in that moment, I was an absolute, complete, total bigot, judging this woman by her body parts and her physical feature and dismissing every other aspect of her. That's what pornography trains men to do. Hey, everybody. PBSE podcast hosts Mark and Steve here with a special message about our revolutionary online recovery program for addict spouses and couples called Dare to Connect. Multiple times every week, we get messages from subscribers in the program. They're people just like you. They're trying to heal from the devastation of sex and porn addiction and betrayal trauma. And here's a few of our most recent submissions. Here's one from an addict in recovery. It says, D2C has principles that everyone should utilize regardless of their circumstances. It doesn't matter your coping mechanisms. It matters that you want to work towards genuine connection with your partner.
That's awesome. Another testimony from an addict continues on. My wife is just starting out in training as a licensed therapist. Dare to Connect has been far more useful to her than her degree.
Wow.
The way Mark and Steve apply what they've learned is always so redemptive. D2C has opened doors for my relationship that I thought would be shut forever. Mark and Steve are an incredible resource of information on the subject of sex addiction and betrayal trauma. We could not do this journey without their help.
Here's one from a partner who's been with us for nearly a year. I want you both to know that it is because of you guys and D2C that I'm able to be in the place that I am today. I will always be grateful to you both for your feedback and prompt replies to my questions. I can't even come close to putting it into words how valuable my time spent with y'all this past year has been to my life. Thank you for everything you taught me about betrayal trauma and boundaries and thinking errors and loving myself. and making myself a priority and standing up for myself.
Ah, love that. Love that submission. And then as we close out here today, guys, one more account from another addict in recovery. I wish I had a platform like this 14 years ago where I could have learned and done the hard work of recovery before I had done all this damage to myself and to my spouse. And to be candid with all of you, that's exactly why we created Dare to Connect. Mark and I found ourselves in that place. Messages like these and the others like them, they're what Dare to Connect really is all about, guys, and why Mark and I do what we do. Whether you're an addict or a partner of an addict, and no matter where you find yourself in the recovery process, Dare to Connect can take you to the next level. Don't wait another day to catapult your recovery forward. Today is your day for change. Visit us at daretoconnectnow.com to pick up your free 2-week trial of Dare to Connect today. Well, and the impact, as Mark said, is profound and difficult to quantify. And I think that the reality is the more that a guy is willing to be mindful with himself, right, and examine, again, pride and ego and all the other stuff aside, ask yourself, for those who maybe have engaged with it recently, we're sure that there are some that listen to the podcast. If you go engage with pornography for 10 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, can you say that you honestly come out of that pornography, masturbation, binge, whatever session it is, and answer the question honestly that I am closer to who I'm wanting or trying to become, right? And not just me, right? But is my marriage, are my relationships, is my capacity to connect better, more capable, more whatever, right? I I feel, and we talk about this in Dare to Connect oftentimes, that there is an inverse relationship when it comes to connection, reality versus escape. The more I connect with reality, by definition, the less I connect with escape. But likewise, the more or unreality or fantasy or whatever you want to call it, right? But likewise, the more I connect with fantasy or things that aren't real or authentic, the more I am likewise disconnected with the things in my life that are of connecting nature.
Yeah.
Right. It's not to say that we all don't need a break, or that fantasizing on some level can be healthy, or especially in the right venue, or dreaming about things, or right, even taking a break. Those are all healthy things. But if I'm consistently recurringly connecting to I have the same discussion, being candid with you, with a lot of the video game addicts that I've worked with over the years.
Oh,
Right?
we had a freeze there.
I've had a lot of issues with the same process with video game addicts that I've worked with over the years, right? Are video games themselves problematic? I would argue no. I pick up a game controller once in a while myself, about once a week. But if I am spending all of my time escaping into a world that doesn't actually exist, right? And it comes at the cost of things that do exist or that are real, authentic connection, authentic reality, authentic whatever. Is that taking me closer and more to who I want to be and I'm trying to become? Am I evolving into a better person, a better man, a better human, a better partner, a better whatever? Or is it taking me further away? Right? Setting
Well,
aside the whole moral argument and just looking at it from that perspective, I
yeah.
think that kind of presents some things.
Well, and I would obviously say, I know Steve would too, that pornography by itself is problematic, absolutely, for
Oh,
sure.
for sure.
But here's what I found in my heavy addiction years. I had in my mind and in my heart the kind of man that I wanted to be, that I yearned to be, that I thought maybe possibly I could become, maybe. But every time I engaged with pornography, what did I find that it reinforced within me? Scanning, comparing, fantasizing, categorizing. It was just reducing women and people around me to just body parts, pieces and parts, sexualized body parts. And so the question we have to ask ourselves is, am I training myself through these behaviors to see women and, quite frankly, myself as whole people comprised of many wonderful, amazing, and beautiful components? Or just simply as pieces and parts that are sources of sexual stimulation? That's a critical question,
For
right?
sure.
Because what pornography and I yearned for connection. I've come to discover now that I've been in recovery for many years that what I was always seeking was real connection, real deep human connection. It scared me. I hadn't experienced much of it at all in my life. I didn't know how to do it. And so I went to sexual outlets as kind of the counterfeit of it. But pornography trains us to do what? It trains us to treat sexuality as something that we consume, right? It's a consumer mindset. It's sexuality trains toward consumption, not connection. That's very important. Pornography trains you and your sexuality towards consumption, not connection, right? So we start to center on things like instant access, my stimulation, novelty and newness, and constantly changing it up, and consuming another person's body for my own gratification,
Mm.
almost always without their consent. I mean, think about that idea. Consuming another person's body for my personal gratification. They did not consent to such a thing. It's pretty significant.
Well, and again, coming back to, let's there is the moralistic side of it, but let's look at the other element. If I am my brain is being progressively trained again to consume versus connect, how does that impact my world?
That's a
Right?
good
Let's take the
question.
morality off the table. I
That's
mean,
a
I can
good
tell you firsthand how it impacted me. My capacity to connect with other people in authentic ways, and I'm not just talking about my wife. I'm talking about my capacity, my ability to actually spend time with and develop valuable relationships, right, was impacted. My ability to form healthy relationships in business and with other people, colleagues, was impacted, right? I mean, the impacts of this are I mean, they are significant on intimate relationships, but it extends so far beyond that. The daily connections that we formulate, on a regular basis, they become impacted by this over time progressively.
Well, and we'd like to say that if we're using pornography and getting into that consumer mindset of using people, that it's solely restricted to just the pornography use and my sexuality. That's not true. I found that objectification of people being a means to my ends, I found that spilled over into all the aspects of my life: business, friendships, family, marriage, right? You can't just limit it to, I only act as I'm consuming people and using them for their pieces and parts when I'm involved with porn. It is not part of any other parts of my life. Not true. Not true. I found it creeping in everywhere where I was objectifying people. Yeah. And the trouble is, real deep human connection, what does it require? That's at the opposite of porn use. It requires being fully present. It requires a mutual collaboration and cooperation with another human being. And it requires vulnerability, patience, right? Deep emotional connection. All the things that we don't use a single one of those when we engage with pornography, not one of them.
Mm.
So where does that take us? What does that train us toward and into?
Mm.
Right? Am I strengthening my ability to connect with other human beings and with myself at a deep level, or just my ability to fantasize and escape? Which is
Mm.
it? You don't get to have both.
It's a really good question. It really, really is. And we could just go on. I mean, I know we're getting low on time here, but just to touch on some other points, guys, that we wanted to bring up for you, if you're in a place where you're kind of considering these things, right? If we look at this from strictly just from the place of, um, you know, how do I say this? I hope this doesn't come off as too sexist, but the majority of the addicts that we work with are men. Okay, so what kind of man do I want to be? One of the topics we're going to be working on soon and Dare to Connect in some form or fashion is going to be healthy masculinity. What does it mean to be healthy masculine? What does that entail? What are attributes and qualities of a quote unquote really masculine man? We all have ideas about how the world defines that, right? It's like Stone Cold Steve Austin with a shaved head and six pack and goatee, who just has no emotion, doesn't feel anything. But what does it really mean to be truly connected to one's healthy masculine self? Well, I would dare say that an ability and a capacity for practicing delayed gratification, for example, is a
Yeah.
component to being a healthy masculine man.
Yeah.
A capacity to be able to endure difficult things without immediately escaping is a capacity for a healthy masculine man.
Yeah. It's,
And
when you say delayed delayed gratification, the opposite, what I've found, at least for me and all the men I've ever worked with, pornography reinforced a total sense of entitlement.
of
I
course,
am
I just get everything right
entitled.
now.
I'm entitled to the bodies of these people, the images of these individuals. I don't have to engage in any kind of self mastery. If I want something, I'm able to get it and to get it right now. I just hit the button,
Well, and that's the thing that I
right?
would tie it to as well, Mark, because you're right. There is that selfishness element, but what about the element again of tying it into what does it mean to be quote unquote a man? If I can't lean into hard things and experience difficult, if I can't experience pain and experience and sit through difficult experiences, right? If my capacity to regulate is always conditioned on me getting what I want when I want. I mean, guys, think about that objectively for a minute. In all of your time, have you ever once heard any woman hold up the value of he can't endure painful things and wants to feel good all the time as a healthy or desirable quality or attribute? No,
Yeah,
of course not. Because
yeah.
what are healthy men from a and you guys can Google this if you want. Generally, a healthy masculine man is somebody who can be a protector, and that doesn't mean just physically. That means emotionally. Well, how do I be an emotional protector? Well, I can tell you right now, if I need an emotional binky every time I'm having a hard time, that is not developing out a capacity for me to be able to do that for a partner.
Well, I'll tell you something that
Right?
hit me hard in recovery was when it was brought to my attention. Hey, Mark, you consider yourself someone that wants to champion uh, people that are weaker than you, that wants to protect, wants to watch over, to guard, right? Women, children. You want to end, slavery across the world. You want to do all these amazing things to uplift human beings, don't you? And I'd say, yeah, I do. Well, but you're engaging in this other activity that is completely and utterly incongruent with those values and the man that you're saying you want to become. Because you know that as you're looking at pornography, it's not this big glamorous amazing world where all these women are consenting and just doing it for the money. You know that there's this dark underworld where people are being harmed in severe, horrible, awful ways. Yet you set all that realization aside to go and feel your pleasure desires. You fracture as a man. You separate yourself from that high value system. Are you good with that?
Mm,
Right?
yeah, 100%. Right? And so anyway, guys, we could go on with this forever, right? About the different traits, but we hope that this has gotten the conversation kind of started,
Well, and
right?
there's
And
and there's one last point I have to bring it up
okay, Mark.
because I was out would have absolutely been guilty of this. This, and I don't know if this is true for this guy. This guy arguing whether porn is quote bad or not.
Hmm.
He needs to take a close look at, is that really his rock solid, genuine, deep core position? Or is he arguing the facts or the labels because there's a part of him that just doesn't want to let go of this method of self-medication, this method of having this convenient pleasure outlet? And he just doesn't want to give it up. So he's going to argue the facts and the labels as a way to hide the fact that he doesn't want to let it go. Or maybe he doesn't even know how he would cope if he didn't have it. Right? This could be camouflage for that.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. Guys, there are lots of areas to explore. If you find that this podcast has resonated for you at all, we hope that you'll and for partners who this is resonating with, we hope that you'll share this with your partner, significant other. And if you do like this approach and you enjoy and appreciate topics that get under the issues to the real issues, if that makes sense, this conversation. I mean, you can see how little we actually talked about porn in this discussion today. What have we been talking about? We've been talking about it's as we say oftentimes in Dare to Connect, true healing and recovery for an individual in this process, for a coupleship in this process, is so much less about saying no to the wrong thing and saying yes to the right. And we don't mean wrong or right in terms of a moralistic perspective. We're talking about right or wrong in terms of what are your real needs, wants, etc.
Yeah, yeah. Is any activity moving you closer to the person you want to become and grow into, or farther away?
Yeah. And there's lots to be done in this area. Wherever you're at in recovery, may we humbly suggest that you give Dare to Connect a try. Come learn with and from two addicts who, as we've said more than once, have done it all the wrong ways. I mean, aren't you guys sick of reinventing the wheel? I mean, seriously, that's how Mark and I used to feel. We've had so many conversations, he and I, off air about this. We've known each other well over 10 years. I mean, it is amazing how many addicts operate in isolation, how many partners do the same. And they go through this journey of stumbling around, trying to figure this crap out for them, on their own, because we don't want people to know. We don't want whatever. Dare to Connect offers an anonymous, safe place where you can learn together and get a manual for the wheel. Quit trying to carve one out of stone yourself. There's just no need. Two guys have already done it. Come join us. Come join us in Dare to Connect. Get answers to your questions. Get real time recovery help and support in an environment that allows you to connect and reach out with addicts and partners and other couples in this process, both live and recorded. Go to daretoconnectnow.com. Grab a 2-week free trial. We'd love to have you come join us. But if you're into feeling pain and want to continue to wait in a delayed way to get questions answered, you can send those in to us through the podcast. We're being semi-facetious, of course. We do hope that you'll come check us out at Dare to Connect. It's frankly the way to go. But we do continue to answer questions on the podcast. You can send those into the same website by going to daretoconnectnow.com. Skipping over the healing journey part that you should click on and go to the contact form where you can send those podcasts into us by clicking at the PBSC podcast logo there. And you can get those into us. I think we're about 6-ish weeks
7 weeks
behind.
behind. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
feel free to, it's like back in the 80s when we used to order like CDs online, right? Allow 6 to 8 weeks to ship for shipping. Kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But we hope that you're well. Be safe, be well. Thank you for, as always, attending. And we hope to see you in a Dare to Connect session soon.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Everything expressed on the PBSC podcast are the opinions of the hosts and the participants and is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast should not be considered mental health therapy or as a substitute thereof. It is strongly recommended that you seek out the clinical guidance of an individual qualified mental health professional. If you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or a desire to harm others, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.